Welcome back to Scrunchy Moms
Mm.
Club.
Hello, how are ya? It's late at night, we're tired, but we're here.
Oh my God, it is late. It has been a week for me. I just want to start off with myself.
Please, go
I don't
on.
even, yeah. I
Don't
need to
even
like,
ask about me, it's fine.
I don't want to ask about you right now because it's about me in my moment. Um, yeah, the flu has struck my house and that's been difficult, but it struck everybody but me, which, like, thankful, I guess, but also just exhausting.
You're the caregiver of the sickly.
I sure am. I mean, I think I sing this song at least once a week, but I'm a single mom who works two jobs, who loves her kids and never stops. What's the lyric?
I'm a survivor.
I'm a survivor.
Yeah, Lila and I always, like, send that to each other, sing that to each other when we complain about, like, "Oh, had to go to the grocery store by myself," or like, "Oh, I had to do the dishes," and then we sing that to each other.
Yeah, so
Single mom
that's
who works 2 jobs.
Reba, thank you so much for that. It really is an anthem for the mothers. Anyway, so yes, the flu has struck my house. Jonah got it first. Now my husband Sam has it. And it's been a lot on me. And I've been full-time parent since Sunday. Today's Thursday. So
Well,
it's
everyone
been a
with
lot.
significant others, men, know that, when they get sick, they get sick.
Oh, the men. Oh my God. Our gorgeous guest who is here, we will say in a minute, but her and my sister and I talk a lot about how men just like cannot handle being sick whatsoever. And it's hysterical. Because the things we do as women when we're sick versus men, it's just complete night and day. So
Well, yeah, like 4 hours postpartum, you're bleeding and you are aware, and you still have to get up and do things. And then these men get a tiny cold and they're out for 2 weeks. It's
no,
crazy.
have you seen that meme where it's or that like reel where it's like, I now know what it's like for a man to have a cold, like, and like the
Yes.
woman just had a
Yes.
C-section. Like,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. So,
Exactly.
so that's been me. I've been, yeah, just struggle bus a little bit, but I will prevail as I always do. I had the flu earlier this year, which I think low key is why I've been like mommy immunity. Um, but yeah, Labor Day plans were ruined. Um, Jonah's
Feel
just
like
been
your
like
guys'
in.
household always gets sick, like, around a holiday. I don't know. Is that wrong? I feel like this isn't the first holiday that's been ruined by sickness. I don't know. Maybe I'm no?
I do not know, but yeah, I can't recall at
Mm.
this very moment. But that's that. How are you, Savannah?
I'm good. I mean, I don't wanna say you got sick because you're making fun of me for being sick for so long, but,
You
how
know,
th
I was waiting for you to say that karma came my way, and it
how
did.
the tides have turned.
How the turntables, if
How
you
the
all watch The
turns
Office.
have tabled. Yeah, so I don't even wanna say I'm not sick because that's just, asking for it, but we're doing good, we're doing well. My children now just have this, like, residual cough, which I'm sure, Emilia, you have, like, a 7-year-old, right? So, I don't know if that's normal to just have this, like, lingering cough, but, like, oh my god, it's, like, really scary. I thought maybe my youngest has croup, which I was looking what that was, and I don't know, but we're gonna go see
Oh,
the doctor next
you
week.
spiraled. You spiraled.
Well, 'cause he lit just the cough is crazy, it's crazy, and I know Jonah has that too, like a residual cough where, like, they sound so sick, but they're actually not sick anymore. So we're dealing
Yeah.
with that, but, like, whatever. Um, but yeah, we're doing
You
good.
just celebrated your youngest a little bit. I mean, it's not exactly his birthday
Oh,
yet,
yeah,
but
we've been
he.
doing things now that we're, like, not on our deathbeds anymore. We've kinda been doing things because my parents were in town, and they're not gonna be here for his actual birthday, which is next week. So, yeah, we went to the water park. We actually went that was another mommy win for me because I don't change my sleep schedules for my kids, but we stayed out late. We went to Disney until, like, 11:30 at
Yeah.
night. Like, that's a big
Wild.
deal for me.
Yeah.
Um, and I only, like, had a panic attack a couple times, but no, I survived and my kids survived. That's the thing. They were fine, literally fine.
They're always
Um,
fine. That's the
yeah, I
secret
will
to
say the
motherhood,
next day
actually.
it's weird. It's not that night that they stay up late, it's the next day. they are a little cray cray. So the next
Mhm.
day it was a little cray cray. And the thing that I feel like it's such a baby boomer thing to say is like, oh, well, they'll sleep in. They don't. They
They
don't
don't.
sleep in. No, if anything, like when Gio goes to bed late, he wakes up early. Like it's weird, but never sleep
Yeah.
in. Never sleep in. But I did it. I pushed through my controlling nature of them going to bed at 8 o'clock every night, and we stayed out late, and it was great, and they survived. So yeah, that was good.
No,
And yeah,
you've been all the celebrations going on.
yeah, this week is a lot more chill because my parents are gone and we're just resetting. And then I think for his actual birthday, we're just going to do something chill. Oh, but I did want to mention, so my parents, they're driving from Florida to Arizona because they like to spend
Oof.
yeah, well, they like to drive because they like to have their car, and they stay in Arizona for the fall because of football seasons and stuff. So they're going to be gone for a while, but they have like a 3-day road trip. So they started listening to the podcast. They've never listened before.
Oh,
And
no.
I told them, please don't. And they're like, no, we have so much time. Like, we're going to listen. Um, so they have notes for us. They have some feedback.
Oh, no. Oh my
Okay, the
god.
first feedback, the note that they said was we curse too much, which like I
My
feel like,
sister says the same.
but I feel like any family member is going to say that because like we don't curse in front of our fam. Like I don't curse in front of my parents. Like I'm not rude, but like with my girlfriend, whatever. Yeah. So that was their first note, and their second note is that we don't talk about them enough.
My sister who had the same she gave me that feedback too. Our family, like, thinks this podcast is about them, and
No,
it's,
I
like,
swear they
literally
just
not.
like no, she literally said, "So I just listened to episode 9 and like I really thought you'd mention me and I wasn't mentioned at all. Episode 9 was the marriage podcast. I'm sorry, are we married? Like why would I mention you?" She was like, I
That is
thought
a Sharon move.
I know. So, oh, and then my dad was offended because I guess every time I refer to them as like them being so great with the kids, I only refer to my mom. And my dad was really offended. Like, I do the nighttime routine. I feed Julian every night. Like, put some respect on my name. Anyway,
Oh my
chill
god.
out. Hi, mom and dad. Now you're listening. We'll try to chill it on the
We
cursing.
we love Sharon and Scott here. We are very big fans, so
Yeah.
love you, shout out. But before it gets too awkward and our like I said, our gorgeous guest is just sitting here like she's holding her tongue because just like me, she is bred from the same elk. She is she is my one and only sister, my eldest sister, Emilia. She's here. She's been dying to be here. She's known me my entire life. She's the only person that's known me my entire life besides my
That's
parents,
crazy.
right? Like that's, Um yeah, she's here and she is ready to speak. So here and Amelia is a mother of one beautiful child who is 7 years old. And he's my nephew and he's literally my best friend as well and he is my child. Just
He's
like I
the
say like
one that we always refer to as like he's the length of our friendship, you and I, because when
yeah.
we first met is when you were going into labor, Amelia, and she was like, "Oh, my sister's going to labor," and that was like when we became friends. So like whenever we're trying to think like how long have we known each other, we're like, "Oh, how old?"
Henry.
Yeah,
Aw,
We base it off of Henry.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I know that's how I've known like Monica and because everybody like we base it off of Henry's age. So, thank you Henry for being born.
Well, he's definitely the best. And thank you for having me on the show finally. Since episode 1, I've been like,
Yeah.
Lila, I need to be a guest on your show. So,
Well, that and Amelia also feels the same where like she gave me the feedback of like you didn't mention me enough in this episode or you said this wrong or you said that. So it's like it's been funny. And well Amelia says I want to be on the show. I'm like, "Okay, give me a topic. Let's like figure it out." You can't just like be on here for free. You got to like work.
I've given you like 15 topics I could help speak on or whatever. And like, whatever. It doesn't matter. I do like live tweet or like live text Lila as I'm listening to the shows. And I don't listen usually on Tuesday. I usually listen like Wednesday or Thursday. And I'll be like, you guys said, no, what is it I always give you grief about? You say, this isn't about me, but. And
yeah.
like, you said it like 97 times.
Not to make everything about me. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to make it about me.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is just, yeah. But No, you
Yeah.
guys are doing so awesome, and literally you can hear every episode. Like it's smoother, it's easier. Like
Mhm.
the chemistry's there, and like it's been really exciting to like watch from my side, even though I you do get things wrong sometimes, but that's okay.
We love
Um,
feedback. It's fine. We love feedback.
yes, that's fine. As long as it's
Absolutely.
constructive and respectful, that's all we care about here at Scrunchy Moms. Amelia, I did want to before we get into the topic, I kind of wanted you to maybe just very briefly, if you can, because you're like me who like loves to talk. I wonder where we get it from, but I just wanted you to kind of go over your journey of motherhood and your maybe like a very brief like description of your birth and how and just like your overall self in motherhood thus far.
Okay, sure. So I have a 7-year-old, Henry, who is the love of my life. Don't tell my husband. And no, he's literally like the best little boy
The
ever.
best
And
boy.
I had a super easy pregnancy with him, which was really nice, actually. I worked every day. I was an admissions director in a nursing home at the time, and so like I was busy and active, and I ate a lot of cereal. That was like my big craving with Henry. Um, but yeah, I my water literally broke at work, and I was 41 weeks 5 days,
Oh my
and
gosh, and still
yeah,
working. Good for you.
yeah.
That's
She's
And everyone was
amazing.
insane.
like, "Go home and put your feet up." I'm like, "If I go home, this baby's never gonna come."
Yeah.
um, so yeah, at 41 weeks 5 days, my water broke in the lobby, and I left. I actually went home because contractions hadn't started, and I wanted to go into labor as naturally as possible. So, anyways, uh, long story short, Henry was born about 4 hours later. So it was pretty quick.
Wow.
Once everything kind of got started, it was pretty quick. We got to the hospital. He was born at exactly midnight, which was pretty cool, by emergency C-section. So, and Lila was the first person at the hospital the next morning. I think you rolled in
I literally
around like
I've
7.
I well, I thought no. I think I left at 5 and I got there
Yeah.
at 7. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember getting the phone call and I was just like, "Should I come now?" And Michael's like, "There's no reason why you should come now. Like
Yeah.
just wait. Like go to sleep for a couple hours and then drive over." So,
Yeah.
yeah, my ass was on the road and I got there and held my sweet beautiful I'll never forget that day.
Yeah. So that was
I'm
really
getting like emotional.
Aw.
No, yeah, so
Oh.
good.
Yeah, so that was like my birth story, I guess. And then basically Henry was born in the summer, so I took my maternity leave for 12 weeks as FMLA provides us, and then he went to daycare, and I went back to work. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
So we like part of this episode, like we wanted to not only just bring you on just to have you on, but also have a topic. So we're not just like chit chatting forever, but yes, we wanted to talk about the work life balance of a
mhm,
mom, right? And just like that topic is so deep and personal to a lot of moms. Um, a lot of people have to go back to work right at sometimes
mhm.
at 6 weeks, sometimes at 8 weeks, sometimes and then sometimes 12. I mean, our country sucks, but that's a whole other conversation. Yeah, so there's that, and then there's I was the my journey was that I did go back to work full time, but then I hated it and wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. Some people have the opposite experience. So it's very interesting to get people's perspectives because I think Amelia and I are like we do have very
Very
different
different.
well, Amelia and I like Amelia and I could not be any more different. Like it's very funny. Even like our body types, I'm redhead, she's brunette, like I'm tall, she's short. Like really like Amelia and I could not be more opposite, but we are so close, I feel like because of it. But no, we like just even like views and stuff. So like this topic as well, we are opposite, but it doesn't mean that I don't respect it and she doesn't respect mine and all that. Um So yeah, so we like, and then Savannah also went fully stay at home. So Amelia, kind of talk to me about like, did you have, you were running your nursing home basically, that you were um back then, right? With Henry. You were a
I
director.
was an admissions director, yeah, and of a very large facility, and it was, yeah, I mean, I ran the department, and it was very busy. It was
Yes.
hectic all the time. Um, yeah, we have very different points of view on some of the stuff, but yeah, basically, we were not in a position as a household for me to not work or for me to cut my hours. And at the time, my husband was going back to school, and I was basically the breadwinner. I
Right.
mean, there's not a nicer way of really saying that. And we couldn't afford it. So I had no choice. I had to go back to work. And I did. Henry was, I think he ended up being 13 weeks when he went to daycare because Hurricane Irma hit that week that um like I was supposed to end my FMLA, but I took a few extra days because hurricane.
Mhm.
Right.
And yeah, we actually evacuated to Orlando because they thought it was going to hit Pinellas County. But then when we came back, basically Henry went to daycare the next day, and I went to work. Went back to work. So
So how was that for you going back?
um, I mean, 7 years ago, so trying to like remember all the emotions, but it was a mixed bag. On the one hand, I was ready to go back to work because it's where I thrive. It's my passion. I love what I do. Um, and on the other hand, like leaving your kid is not easy. But I also, Henry went to like a home daycare
Mm,
versus like a big facility or a daycare center or something where there was like 12 kids in his class. No, he was the only baby, and there were two other kids. I think one was 1 and one was maybe 2 or 3 years old. And it was, the owner is a cousin of one of our really close friends, so like there was already like trust there, and it was in a home, which felt better. And like
yeah.
she literally, I think, like baby wore him for most of the day. Like she had a pack and play that was a Henry dedicated pack and play. And like um yeah, and she was super respectful of stuff. Like when I told her, she asked me, like, what do you want to know? Like, do you want to know if there's a first that happens here? And I said, no, like, let me discover the first for me, and then we can talk about it later.
That was one of my
So
questions, like how did you get through those moments of missing the firsts? Like, because I mean, and that's kind of a good point, and maybe a good advice for a mom who is going back to work. Maybe their mother-in-law's watching the baby, maybe they're at a daycare, or they're wherever they are, right? And that the mother has to go back to work. I think that is a very good piece of advice, because I think I kind of had the opposite, where my mother-in-law was texting me every little thing while I was back at work, and my soul, not that like she came from a good place. Like it wasn't, I don't like, there's no wrong. She
yeah.
didn't do anything wrong, but just like when I got those text messages of videos and things of him at the park or going down a slide or all those things, my heart shattered. And that's just like what made being at work hard. So I think like that's such a good piece of advice for any mom going back to work, is like kind of what you said. It's like, okay, like I don't want to hear about it. Like just let me discover if he took his first step or he rolled or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. And the nice thing that, like, what you don't know, you don't know, right? You don't know if your kid took their first
Yeah.
step. You don't know if they rolled. You don't know if they, ate their first banana, whatever. Like, if you don't know, you don't know, was kind of my philosophy. And she didn't text throughout the day. Like, when we would get there, there was like a little report, and it had like how many dirty diapers and how many bottles, and, you know, how long he napped, and all of that information that we needed. But we also, to go off of that too, like what you don't know, you don't know. Like I didn't know that my breast milk was not enough for him and that I we needed to start supplementing with formula. Like she's the one who educated us and said like, you're producing, it's
Mm.
good, but he's eaten through all of it and then like we need more. And so Henry, which kind of ties back to a previous episode when you guys were talking about the breastfeeding journey. Like Henry got it all. He nursed when he was with me. He drank a bottle at daycare, first always of my milk that I was pumping at work. And then when the milk was out for the day, he was getting formula. So he got the full spectrum of everything.
Right.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and then, yeah, just, but I think it's all about communication and like letting your provider caregiver know like this is what I want. Don't tell me, or do tell me. Like some people want to know, like, you know, but
Yeah, no, that's a good point about the communication. Yeah. It's whether you want, because like I wanted to know, but then my heart would break. So it was a very like I
mhm,
always felt so torn. Yeah. How about you, Savannah?
See, I'm like the opposite where I want to know everything. So I like all those, even like when I was at work or even when I'm not with them, like I want to know everything. I want to know.
mhm,
And I'm like also come from a weird
right.
place. Like I'm okay with missing the moments as long as they're doing those things, like that's okay. Like, but that's like part of my toxic cycle of like I put myself last. So it's like as long as like he's taking his first steps, like that's fine. Like I don't need to be there. But yeah, so like and that's also like my controlling side too is I want to know everything. I probably text too much and want to know too many details. Uh but yeah, but also I never when I went back to work part-time and I did it to where on my husband's off days that's when I would go to work. And our schedule, Lila and I, is like you can kind of the way I could work when I wanted to work, you know, pick up clients like when I was available. So anyway, we worked it that way. So I feel like my husband was watching him, so it was different. And you know, I could scream at him if he did something wrong. You know, it's a little different. And I'm not paying somebody, so it's a little different dynamic. But it's interesting to hear that side of like a home daycare as opposed to you know, one of the other daycares. But yeah, so
I
that's
know
interesting.
you inspired me to like want to try to find one, but like there's not a lot of options in Orlando for
Well, and
that.
even the ones that are home daycare, like the wait list and just all of it is just
Yeah, because they have to be small ratios, right?
Yeah. There was actually, I ended up finding the person that we used through a friend, but we had like gone to a bunch of places. There was a Facebook group that was literally like Pinellas County home daycares, and they like would
Wow.
post if they had availability and what the age range was and everything. And so I like when we were looking for daycares, I we called a bunch of those places and who had availability. We went and toured quite a few, um, but it just literally like I was having a conversation with a friend and she was like, actually, my cousin does that. And I was like, oh, give me her number. Which
Yeah.
ended up
so
being
did you find daycare when you were pregnant? Like you had to do it that far in advance?
so. Ideally, I would have found daycare when I was pregnant. And Henry was actually on a few waiting lists, but it wasn't until like actually right before I had to go back that they all came about and like everything fell into place.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I actually didn't even like I didn't even tour her house before I dropped him off. We
Oh,
had talked on
wow.
the phone, and again, she
Wow.
was a cousin of a really dear friend. So I was like, I trusted, and I saw pictures, and
Yeah.
yeah, so like that first day, and I want to say that I dropped him off by myself. I don't even think that Michael came with me. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure like I just went and dropped him off because it was on my way to work. So like I would take him and drop him off in the
Mm.
morning, and
Mhm.
then Michael would pick him up in the afternoon, or if I had to, I would. But that I think that was our arrangement back then.
He cannot be involved. Tell him he cannot be speaking over. Oh my goodness, so
Wait,
nosy.
because Lila, I know you had like a crazy wait list. Like when you were first, you know, obviously
Um,
Jonah's whole heart thing has like a different he had different plans. But like, yeah, tell us that journey of when you were gonna put him in daycare because that was crazy.
yeah, well, the daycare that he's at is a very sought out daycare. Everybody wants to go there. So it's yeah, quite a wait list. I was on the wait list for about a year and a
Yeah.
half. Um
So
I I
crazy.
I put him on it at 20 weeks
You were 20
pregnant.
weeks pregnant.
I was 20 weeks pregnant.
Yeah, because I remember you saying, like, I had to call and be like, "For my son." Like, I don't even have a son yet. Like, it's just
I know
weird
it
that
was
I had to talk like
it,
that.
no, it was wild. I did have to do that. And then the first time around I didn't get in.
Mm,
And then I had to put like a $200 deposit to be on the
of
wait list for
course.
the next year. So
Wow.
but then when you're on the wait list for a year, you're guaranteed a spot. So I
Oh.
knew that we were going to be in for the one turning two class. I just, had to be patient. So,
No, that's
um,
crazy. No,
no, it
that
was
to me is wild, and it's so common with daycares, but, like, I just had no idea until I became a mom that daycares and schools are just that crazy with the wait lists, and, like, you
mhm.
really do have to jump on it when you're pregnant, or else you're just not gonna have anywhere to go.
Well, I will say that so we have at our synagogue, there's a daycare, and we knew that Henry was going to go there eventually. When we joined this community, like right after my husband and I got married, they didn't have like a baby class or a 1 year old class. They started, I think, at 3, and they did like threes and fours and VPK. And basically, we like said, if you want to attract young families to this community, you have to offer younger classes. And so then, like, they did a 2 year old class, and then they ended up doing a 1 year old class, which we helped to like figure out with them. Um, because there's so much regulation around having a baby class or a 1 year old class. And you wouldn't think like
Your
Ah,
ratio.
it's not even just the
Yeah, because you
ratios, it's
have to
like the square footage, and like you have to have a certain number of sinks, and like it's a lot.
a
It's a
lot of
lot.
liability, yeah, with
Yeah.
those younger ones.
Yeah.
That makes sense, yeah.
So
yeah, I know infant care is way harder to find
mhm,
than toddler and so on.
I think it's a lot more expensive too, right?
Yes.
astronomical.
Yeah.
Your tuition gets cheaper. Yeah, your
Yeah,
tuition gets cheaper the older they
And
get.
which is crazy 'cause they're like, just potatoes, but I guess it's like I said, a lot of liability and
diapers.
stuff,
And a
but
lot of care, you're feeding, you're burping, there's so much going. Yes, so many diapers, so much
And
poop.
yeah, it gets cheaper until you get to kindergarten if you remain in private school setting type of
mm,
thing.
Right, right,
Or you go public school and there's no cost.
right.
Um but yeah, so at 1 years old, Henry transitioned from the home daycare to it's called Gan Chaya preschool, which is really close to our house, and it is in our synagogue. And his class was 6 boys, and they like literally, first of all, like, God bless that teacher to have
yeah.
6 1 year old boys. But she was like, she had them good. Um, they they were so well behaved, and they did what they were supposed to do, and they followed their schedule, and it was great. And then she actually stayed with them for the 1 year old class and the 2 year old class, and then they ended up they all went through VPK together. So um, it was, yeah, they had
They had
some
a
really
cute
good
little
teachers.
friendship. Yeah,
And they're still friends. I mean, they see each
yeah.
other like almost every weekend, and yeah, it's great. I love that they have that friendship now.
So, like, at least for me, obviously when you first go back to work, like, you have all the feels, right? Like, at 12 weeks, let's just get real, you're not ready to be back, but you have to be because that's just what society thinks. And, you good, Amelia? Okay, so let's just keep going. Um, just don't touch anything. Okay. Anyway, so, when I first like, when you first go back, obviously, it's really fresh. You're like, you feel like you're not ready. Like, it's again, like I said, this country like expects at 12 weeks you're supposed to be bounced back and good and whatever. But for me, at least, I feel like it really didn't get easier for me. And I would cry almost every morning on my way to work. And I know that's like so lame, but like I really did. That was just really what
Well, you
the
were
experience
also
was for me.
working. You went like full force. You were working a lot.
Yeah.
You were working like 50 plus hours a week, right? Like you would
Yeah.
leave right after he woke up and you just see him for bedtime, like morning and
Yeah, like
bedtime.
I just felt like my mother-in-law was raising him and not me, and it was just like, and again, she was wonderful and she took such great care of him, but it was, that was hard for me. So like, did any of you kind of have, I know Savannah, you went part-time, but like Amelia did, like, because some people are not like me, and I get that. Like some people are not as emotional and like, and I didn't think, the thing was I didn't think I was going to be this emotional, because I always, like, in my head I was like, I'm going to be this working mom and that's just what it's going to be, and I'm going to like be so cute, like, but it was the total opposite. Like my expectations were completely different from what my reality actually became, and that was a shift that I was not prepared for. So I'm just curious, Amelia, if like you had, if your expectations before and after were kind of the same or different, or like how was that for you?
Well, I definitely had a lot of guilt. And I do think
Who
I had
doesn't?
yeah, I do think I had undiagnosed postpartum depression, but um, I also, like I said, like I had to work. And I basically just kept telling myself that over and over again. Like, there's not a choice. You have to work. You have to go. And Savannah, like you said about Lila, I also was working like 50, 60 hours a week, and I was working from home sometimes. And I mean, it was really crazy. Um, there were some nights where like they would spring a deadline on me, and I'd have to call Michael and be like, I won't be home until 9 or 10 o'clock tonight. Like, I have to get this report done. Um, so yeah, there was a lot of guilt that came with that. But at the same time, like, number one, Henry doesn't remember any of that, right? Like,
Oh, right.
thankfully, like in retrospect, I can look at that and I can say, like, he has no idea that I'd missed a bedtime here and there, or that I wasn't there when he woke up. Like, he doesn't remember. um I think it took a while for us to like get our groove. Like, I had to change the time I go grocery shopping. So, and like, I think Lila kind of, everyone in our family, I think, makes fun of me that like I go grocery shopping after bedtime, like 8 p.m., 8 or 8:30, 9 o'clock.
I
Like,
kinda like that
that
though,
is the
yeah.
grocery shopping time. Number one, the stores are empty. Number two, your kid is in bed, so there's no guilt about I'm missing anything. And most of the shelves are restocked, so you're getting like the freshest stuff.
No, that's
um,
actually a good pro tip there, yeah.
yeah,
That's when she always calls me, is when she's doing her nighttime shopping.
yeah, and it's the best time to call your other, mom friends or sisters or whatever. Like, it's a good time of day to do that, and then you don't feel like I have to rush through my grocery shopping because I have to get home because it's dinner and bath and bed, and I don't want to miss that again. Like, you have to
See,
adjust.
I will say my guilt dissipate. I think I've talked to Savannah about this, is that like all of us have mom guilt, right? Whatever. Even like going on a girls'
Yeah.
night, sometimes you're like, oh, should I? I don't know. Actually, I had that this weekend. I know
Well, that's because when the flu struck.
this is when yeah, well, Jonah was like throwing up, and like I literally had my dinner reservation and it was an hour before, and I'm just like, I am the worst mom in the world that I'm gonna go to and Sam's like, first of all, I've got this. Second of all, he's going to bath and bed. Like, you're literally fine. Just go to dinner. Like, you need to go to dinner. And I did, and I ended up having such a lovely night with my friends. But like, you know what I mean? Like, um we all have the guilt, but there was a
You were
reason that I
saying,
was
like,
bringing
it
that up.
dissipated at some point.
Oh, yeah, so my mom guilt dissipates when my kid is asleep. When Jonah's asleep,
Well, of
my
course.
guilt melts away. I
Of
don't have
course.
to, or nap time. If I go do something during, I don't know what it is, but like the sleep, I'm like, okay, I'm clocked out.
Well, yeah,
Go
because
like,
you're not missing anything. They're
yeah.
unconscious.
No, but some people still like are overwhelmed with it regardless,
Yeah.
So that's like even like I knew Jonah was sick and but I like went I did go anyway and again, it ended up being just fine, but it was it was something.
But that is so true what you said about, Amelia, about, like, it really that guilt you feel that you're missing these moments, right? Especially when they're little. They're not gonna remember. It's really more of a you thing, or something like you have to kind of,
Mhm.
figure it out for yourself.
Yes.
Like, you wanna be there, and I'm not saying that you're not validated in that, but yeah, they're not gonna remember. They're gonna just, know of all the moments that you spent with them, and yeah, especially when they're that young, like that, yeah, that's such a good point that it's more of a us thing,
Yeah.
like, we internalize these feelings and have this guilt that really they could give 2 shits about, like
Well, I think I really started to care at like VPK when like when he started to notice that there were like school performances or like programs and like mommy wasn't there. Like why was everybody else's mommy there and my mommy wasn't there? So what's that, like 4-ish
Yeah.
years old, 4 or 5 years old? That's true. That's like when memories start to really form. And so at that point I had to put a boundary with work, and I said, like, Henry has a, coffee, or not coffee with mom, but like a Mother's Day presentation or whatever, and or a Hanukkah party, and I will be late to work that day, and I'll make up my hours, a different day. Thankfully, the jobs that I've had since the one when Henry was born, I left there when he was 3 years old, and I took a promotion to a different position with a different company. Same thing, but I had a lot more flexibility in my schedule with that job, and so it was much easier for me at that point to flex my hours. I still had to do my full time hours, but I could flex. Um, and then now I am the executive director of an assisted living. So I'm like the head honcho, and I really can make my own hours and do what I need to do as a mom to a second grader. So, you know, if there's something going on at school, and or Henry has a doctor's appointment or whatever, like I make my schedule around that so that I can be there and present with him.
Well,
Yeah.
I will say that's a good point about the setting boundaries when you go back to work when you're a mom. That's so important because I don't want to speak for you, but I know Lila and I, like, when before kids at work, like, I was a very much a yes person, and I still struggle with that. But I was very much a yes person, and before I got pregnant, I had just passed the board exam, just got this big promotion, and so I took on like any clients that, needed to, have an analyst on it. And then, then I got pregnant a few months later. So basically, I was only in my position for like a year. And then I went on maternity leave, and then when I came back, I don't know what happens, but there's just, I mean, you're a whole new person. Like we always say, you birth a whole new you as well. And I was like, no, I'm setting some boundaries. So I only took back, like, I had about like 11 clients before I left, which is pretty, kind of a lot.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is
for
a
what I
lot.
did. And I was driving all over. Like sometimes I would be driving over an hour, to get there and over an hour back. But once I became a mom, I was like, I can't do that. Like that's time I'm missing with my child, and I'm not even getting paid. I'm driving. So when I came back, I only took about half of my client load back, and I only was like, I will only drive 30 minutes from my house. So it's just those little things you're reminding me, like, it is important to set those boundaries because I don't know, when you become a mom, it's like it's not about you anymore. It's about like what you want for your family and all of that, and the worst they can say is no, right? So, yeah, I definitely set some boundaries, when I went back to work, even if I was only going back part-time. I was like, "I'm just gonna do this," and, we good? Yeah.
Yeah, so, that's okay. Um, I think sometimes I get caught up in, like, I wanna give my
I don't know
kid
what.
the best childhood, so it's like if I, like, don't, or if I don't know, I think that's maybe what going back to work was so hard for me too, and staying at work and working the amount that I was working, that was like, I'm not providing that for them, you know? And I think it's obviously like mommy issues I have too, but that's a whole other episode. But but yeah, so and I think that like kind of led to my, I mean, I guess just to like refresh the masses, because we talked about this probably in the first or second episode, that like I went back to work. I went back to work for a little over a year, and I made the decision to go part-time literally 3 weeks before Jonah got diagnosed with all of his heart defects. So weird, a weird thing. And I was just going to go part-time. I gave a 90-day notice. I was so nice. Like I was like, because I was
Jonas
doing
said, "No, bitch, you're leaving."
literally, that is what Jonah did. Because I was like, "Okay, I'll work 3 days a week and be 2 days," like, it was just like, 'cause
Hold my
and I
beer,
guess that
mom.
this is my big question, and I want your everybody's take on this. Can women have it all?
I think yes. Um, so I there was one other thing I just kind of want to throw in there, like because you were saying about like providing and whatever, like a lot of how I had to like reshape the way I thought about things was that while physically I'm not there, number one, I'm providing him with the best possible caregiver, right? I'm providing him with a home. I'm providing him with food. I'm providing him with clothes. I'm providing him with all of these things that if I didn't work, like we would be living in my car. So, like I literally was doing
Right.
all of those things. And I mean, it was hard. Like, it was a struggle. We struggled a lot, especially when Michael went back to school. And Michael's also a BCBA. Thank you, Lila. So, like, we went on that journey, and he had to go get his master's and study for the exam and all of that stuff. And um, I knew that while physically I may not have been there for those things, for some things, um, I was providing. And I think women can have it all if they make it all. Like, and all is whatever you want all to be. Because like to me, my career
Mm.
defines a lot of a lot of me. It's a lot of my personality. It is who I am. And I think if I didn't work, and first of all, if I stayed at home, you'd see me on Bay News 9. I don't know what the equivalent is in Orlando anymore. As like the crazy lady, like running in the streets naked or something because she and like left her child at home. Like I couldn't be a stay at home mom. Like staying at home with Henry for like a week when I had COVID was really hard. I think when I had COVID, I had to stay home for 10 days. It was back then. And yeah, and
Like in the beginning, yeah.
he had to stay home because I had COVID. And like 10 days at home with a toddler was really I couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. It's not my personality. And
Mhm.
as soon as I kept begging, I'm like, guys, I'm telling you, I'm fine. Like, let me come back to work, please. And Henry thrives at school. Like,
Well, it's funny, Amelia, I think you yeah, no, I think you and I were talking about it when I was there the other weekend, that I was like sitting next to somebody in one of Jonah's like little classes, and I was like, I opened up to her and I was like, "So I've just been like really upset being back at work. Like, how has it been for you?" And she's like, "I love it." She was like, "I
yeah.
could not stay at home. Like, I love working." And I was like, "Okay, not everybody thinks like me. Got it." But like, it's okay that, you know what I mean? Like, some
Mm-hmm.
people like Amelia, who like love, and also love what I do. And I think that was like such the conflict to me, is that I love being a BCBA,
Mhm.
but it was like the being a mom was just trumping it too
Mhm.
much, where like my everyday well-being was just, I was just sacrificing my well-being, and I just couldn't do it anymore.
Mhm.
And it was just like such a guilt, cuz also Amelia and I grew up where like our father said, "You are going to be working women, you're going to be independent women. This is like this is how it's going to be. You guys have to work." So I think that also was very um overwhelming in my thoughts of like, well, this is what I was like raised and have to do. So
Yeah.
so that conflicting, like, I want to stay at home, but you have to work, but
I
you
feel
know,
like you and
so
I, we worked so hard to like get to the place we were in our careers, like so much school, so much money, so much time. Finally got to where we were, and then, the things didn't work out. But I agree. I had that same sort of feeling of like, I mean, I loved what I did. I loved what I did. And I still want to go back someday. But I just felt like, especially when I got pregnant that second time, I just felt like I was checked out at work. And I just felt like the
completely.
spark was like fading. And I just felt like it was a disservice to the the therapist that I was supervising. It was a service to the clients. Like I just felt like I wasn't the person that, they
Yeah.
wanted me to be and that I should be for this. So I really just felt like I needed to leave because my heart wasn't in it. But it doesn't mean like it's not in it forever. Like I said, I want to go back, but and I do agree with what you were saying, Amelia. It really does take like a certain personality to be a stay-at-home mom. Like there's no easy route. Stay-at-home mom, work full-time mom, none are
Yep.
easy. There are
No.
pros and cons to both, and especially Lila, you've done both. You can say
Mhm.
it like, and I always say that about being a stay-at-home mom. It's a privilege and a prison because
See,
it's like,
nobody thought that I could do it. Like, I think a lot of people were like, I don't like, especially at work, they're like, Lila, you say you want to stay at home, but like, you'll never do it. And like, obviously, I was forced into it. So I'm here. And no, it is fucking hard to, like, it's like, yeah, each one has its own hard. You have to pick your hard.
Yeah, I think you have to pick your heart, but I think you have to turn inward a lot and really figure out like what does it need to be, and you have to have communication with your spouse because and like look, the reality is
mhm.
all three of us here, we're happily married, things are good, like we don't, but there are a lot of women out there who don't have a choice, like they're single moms and they're in bad situations or whatever it is, and like they have to be able to go back to work. And to what you said, Lila, like there are some women who they don't even get the 6 weeks. Like some people go back like pretty quick.
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
and that's tough, that it's the reality, but you know we're lucky that we had the choice of like how did we want to make this all happen.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and it is communication with your partner because I think that was, um, if you have support versus not, or, um,
Mhm.
yeah, because sometimes your partner could say like, no, like like I've had a friend like that where it's like
Yeah.
the partner is like, no, like we need to do this right now, and like
Yeah, a lot of it is
maybe in
like
a couple years, maybe
the
it's just yeah,
financial aspect, like, and that's what
yeah,
we had those conversations too of like, let's do the numbers. And because I was working so little, because I was part-time, and then when I got pregnant, I stopped taking on clients. So it
Yeah.
was just like the amount of time I was spending away with the money, like it just
Oh,
wasn't making. And then we didn't even talk about how expensive daycares are and getting someone else. Like it's crazy. Some people are literally working to just pay for daycare. It's insane. So when we did all those numbers, it just didn't make sense. So you really do have to have those conversations, and not everybody will have the same sort of situation. It depends. But yeah,
yeah,
those daycares are fucking it's insane. Like I mean, Lila's told me I don't know. It's just crazy. Like I just
I
don't know
know,
how these places get away with it. It's crazy.
because it's supply and demand. There's no
Yeah,
you
because
don't
people will pay it,
Yeah,
obviously.
and there's no other option. And like I was blessed that the situations I was in, like they allowed me to be flexible as long as I was paying. So like for example, the home daycare, like she let me pay weekly because that was the only way that it worked for us. And then like when he went to the daycare at our synagogue, they normally they want to get paid like on the first of the month or whatever, but they let me be flexible. And sometimes I would pay like half on the first and half on the 15th, or I would pay all of it at the middle of the month, or like, but as long as I was communicating with them and letting them know what was going on, they were very, very willing to work with me. And honestly, that carried into Henry's, kindergarten and the school he's in now, which is a private school. He, that was like one of the first questions I asked when we were going through the enrollment process there was, when it comes to this, like, because we were had I think Michael passed his BCBA when Henry was in kindergarten. So
I think so,
I
yeah.
think so. I think he was just an RBT before that, and so like RBT income plus what I was made, like we had to be flexible, and thankfully we were able to work with providers that did that, and that took so much of the anxiety off of me when I knew that like all it took was an email or a phone call, and I could say like, hey, the direct deposit cannot come out this week. It has to be next week. Can you, push it, or you push
Yeah.
it from Wednesday to Friday or whatever it was? And that they were always, as long as I communicated, they were always willing to be like, absolutely no problem. So,
Mhm.
I think there's just a lot of factors in all of it.
So Amelia thinks that a woman can have it all. I don't think a wo
I don't think
I
so either, but I
I
didn't want to
don't.
be negative.
No, that's fine because I like no, but I'm glad that you have a different opinion than us, So, because I don't not agree with you, Amelia. It's just I feel like you don't because how can you be present at work and at home at the same time? I think that is what I struggled with so much. And that's why I was like, you can't have it all because like I want to be present. I want to like how Savannah was saying that she was checked out at work. That was me too. Like I really wasn't the leader that I wanted to be and I knew that I was. And then I wasn't being the mom that I knew I wanted to be and that I was. So that's why this whole like can women have it all like is such a lingering question in my mind always, and I always love talking about it because and getting other people's perspectives because in my eyes no, you have to pick so that's my take on it.
I'm also 7 years deep, so I
Right.
have I've had a lot more time with it. I also like my parenting style is different than yours. And that is Henry's extremely independent. And I think a lot of that is because we fostered that within him. And he understands like when mom has a work call, and you just have to be quiet for 5 minutes so I can get done. And then we can go back to whatever it is that we're doing. Um, you know, yeah, I'm 7 years deep. I don't know.
No, yeah.
Maybe if you had asked me 5 years ago when Henry was 2, my perspective would
Yeah,
be very
no, that's
different.
true.
Right.
I think that matters for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Savannah?
I mean,
Because you said you kind of agree.
yeah, I was, but I'm always negative. But no, actually, there's a book I want to read. Do you know who Stassi is? Stassi Schroeder. She
Yes.
just wrote a book. She's a mom of two, and her book is titled "You Can't Have It All." So I want to read that. But no, I just feel like sacrifices. I don't know. I just feel like part of a mom is sacrifices, right? You just have to give up some things, and like even a stay-at-home mom, right? We're still missing. I still feel like I'm missing a part of myself and I'm still trying to
Yep.
find myself, but I wouldn't trade it for where I'm at. It's just like a weird thing I struggle with. So like, no, I don't think at this moment that I have it all. I still am missing some part of me that I'm gaining back doing this podcast. I'm doing other things. Like I'm getting there, but I do also agree with you that like you're 7 years in. I would hope to God when I'm 7 years in, I'll have it a little more figured out. But yeah, I think it's when they're so little and they're so young, like we're still technically postpartum, you know what I mean? Like we're still figuring it out. So I feel like at this moment, no, there are sacrifices. Both my husband, and that was another thing I wanted to say, like from the working perspective, because my husband works full time. Um, that's like another thing is, when you're working, then you get off, you don't get to just like chill and relax, have your days off. Like you go right into parenthood. So that's just reiterating the point that like there's no, good solution. There's not stay at
Yeah.
home parent, working parent. There's sacrifices to be made on both sides. And like that always causes a little strife with me and my husband too, because I'm like, when he comes home from work,
Right.
like in my mind, he's clocking in, I'm clocking
Yeah.
out. But like it
Yes.
doesn't always
Yes.
it doesn't always work that way. And it doesn't always, because and then I have to empathize and understand like he is working, that's not necessarily a break. Like, he also needs to have a break, and we need things physically to get done around the house. He has to go do things. But mama needs a break too. So it's like a lot of just reiterating that, like, you can't win. So in my opinion, no, you can't have it all. But maybe it'll change. I don't know.
I think the more, and because we're both like both Michael and I work, and it's been like logistically, we have to figure everything out, right? Like, um, who's taking Henry to the bus this morning? Who's picking Henry up from the bus this afternoon? Who's got this? I've got that. You've got a work function. I've got a work function. Like, we have to figure it out. But that's also where like community comes in, and
Right.
like, they say it takes a village, or whatever that saying
Ask
is.
for
Like,
help.
it truly does. I mean, when Henry was a baby, and even though he went to daycare, I still had like trust issues with finding a babysitter. Like, the only person we trusted was Lila, and like she would drive over. Like, thankfully, this was before, Sam, before they were married, and before Jonah obviously
Yeah,
even thought he
I
wanted
was
to pick
like
a
a
sign.
You were
mid-20s.
young and hot and didn't have
I was
anything else going on.
young and hot. I was a young and hot auntie for sure.
She would like drive over and watch him for like a Sunday afternoon, so Michael and I could like go breathe. And that made the world of difference, because we live over here with no family. Lila and my dad are the closest proximity wise, and that's still a 2-hour drive to Orlando, with I-4 only getting worse every day. So it's, yeah, but
Yeah.
we made it happen somehow. Miraculously, we've kept Henry alive for 7 years, and like we're still married, and we both
You
still
know
work, and
what? You know
like,
what? A testament, really,
Mhm.
truly. Amelia, you're doing great.
yeah, and like
So,
every apartment's gotten a little bit nicer, and every car's gotten a little bit nicer, and like, good things.
stunning.
Wait, so
Love to
I
hear
have
it.
a question. So that yeah, that brought on a question I have, because I know my husband was just telling me about this. So when you, maybe not now, or maybe when he was younger, when you were working full time, so you were just saying like you need to make time to, like, for you and your husband to go out, you to breathe. So do you feel guilty when, you're working full time, and because my husband said he recently feels guilty when he's working and then his days off, like he feels like he should be 100% with his kids. And if he feels like he needs to go out, like go fishing, go hang with friends, like he feels guilty because, like, I only get these 2 days with my kids. Like, and so he feels guilty about advocating for himself that he needs a break. Did you ever struggle with that? Like, wanting, you only get this amount of time with your son, and then you're wanting to, like, actually go out. Like, did you feel guilty? Do you feel guilty?
um so I think earlier on, when he was younger, yes, I did feel guilty, but I also, like, this is where Lila and I, personality wise, are very different. Like, I'm not a go out person.
Mhm.
Like, my circle of friends, I would rather go participate in like a women's group event at our synagogue once a month, and like
Yeah.
that's fine by me. Like, that's my socialization. I don't need that to thrive in the same way that I know Lila does. Um, but yeah, but that's why, like, I had to figure out when a good grocery shopping time was, because like
Mhm.
that would make me feel guilty of like, oh my gosh, I just got home, and then I'm dropping him,
Mhm.
with Michael, and I'm running to Publix for an hour to go grocery
Yeah,
shop, and like, that's ridiculous. No. So
for
then,
sure.
I shifted that, and it like made the world of difference. All of a sudden, it was like, oh, okay, no, I'm home, I'm present for, the 2.5 hours or whatever it is that we need to have dinner and bath and bed. And we do that every night. I mean, we don't always like sit down perfectly all together at the table to eat, but like, we've made it a priority that dinner time, if we're home, we're sitting and eating. And even if it's like just me and Henry, or if it's just Henry and Michael, like, we're sitting at the table eating together, or Henry's eating and we're with him, present
Mhm.
there, talking
I
like,
Mhm.
what
know,
did you do in
and
school
now
today?
I'm
And what did you,
Now I'm no longer allowed on FaceTime while they're eating dinner because, like, they, like,
Mm,
have this rule now, so,
no phones.
like,
I
Yeah.
get it.
I
I
Well,
need to
I mean,
implement
like,
that.
I get it, but, like,
Lila
eventually
used to join us a couple times a week on FaceTime for dinner. But
I
yeah,
would just be, like, propped up,
I
like,
love
"Hi,
that. That's so cute.
yeah.
guys."
Um,
Yeah.
but no, we have to sit there and use that time to, and now especially like Henry's in second grade, like we need to know what's going on in school and what did you do and what did you learn, and let's go over the folder that came home with you, and do you have homework, and um,
Yeah.
it's a
I
different
think also
experience.
when you're working so much, and at least I felt this way too, is like your time with your family is so intentional,
Mm,
and it's priceless. It's what you have to make it, yeah, that intentional quality time, and it's more meaningful sometimes. So I will say that was kind of a positive where, like, yeah, I would put
yeah,
my phone down and
I
just be.
also
So
up until literally the beginning of this school year, which was just a few weeks ago, I would lay down with Henry every night in bed, and um, that was my time to snuggle and get all of the affection that I needed. Was that half hour of laying in bed with him at night. Truly, he didn't need me. From like the time he was much younger, he really didn't need me to lay in there, but it was like our thing. And he would like snuggle up in my arm and fall asleep with me, and like listening to him snore and breathe and just feeling the warmth of his body, like eased a lot of my anxiety, and it made it just was very, it was something that I really enjoyed, and it took a lot of the other things, like, oh, I missed whatever I missed, or I didn't participate in whatever I didn't participate in. It was like, okay, but I got my Henry snuggles at the end of the night. So
yeah. Well, I think the older they once they're in elementary school, I also feel what like they're in school, like there's nothing you're really missing at that point, you know? So I feel probably the guilt sheds once they hit kindergarten, I'm sure, because
right,
you're kind of like, okay, they're in school 8 to 3,
right,
like there's no I can't just sit there at the classroom like, "Hello, I'm here." Like you can't do that. Like
Yeah.
and that I think that's when a lot of women go back to work anyway.
Mhm.
If they are stay-at-home moms, they like probably when the kids hit elementary school and they're
yeah,
like, "Okay, like I'm just
different
sitting here
perspective.
twiddling my thumbs," like so, yeah, very interesting stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, this was yeah, no, I love it. And this was great. This was really great. And a very important conversation because, yeah, as women, like I said, like a lot of the times we just really feel like we don't have it all or can't have it all.
the only other thing I would say, like, to a mom who's maybe getting ready to go back to work
Oh, that
postpartum,
was
who's
a question
pregnant,
for
who's
me.
thinking about it. Oh yeah, okay. I just would say, like, as far as advocating for yourself, I wish I knew better when it first started. Like, I've obviously gotten a lot of practice now about advocating for myself as a mom and putting my foot down. Like, no, I have something, I have a commitment I have to go to. Number one, people are more understanding than you think. But really, I actually was going to say, and just again, going back to like the breastfeeding stuff, pumping, like, you have to advocate for yourself as a pumping mom.
Mhm.
As like, I worked in an office and people were constantly in and out of my office. And my assistant actually printed a sign with a cow on it because people weren't reading like the I'm pumping or like a privacy or conference call or whatever. So we literally printed a picture of a cow, and it said like come back in 20 minutes or whatever, and like that's what we would put on the door, and people actually respected that, or they at least were it like, I don't know, triggered more awareness, and like they would leave me alone so I could do what I needed to do for 20
Yeah, I
minutes
feel like half
and
the
get the milk.
time people
So
just don't know. So you really have to advocate for
yeah,
yourself. Like I have to pump every
yeah,
2 hours. Like a lot of people who aren't moms or aren't parent like they don't know that.
right,
So you just and I think legally like
yes,
you have
yes, legally
most workplaces
they have to provide
they
you.
have to
Mhm.
provide you those services, but like they might not know, so it is really like, and like I said, Lila and I are very like yes people. So becoming a mom, I've really learned that you have to advocate for yourself, set boundaries.
Yes.
It's really important, and it's like the only way you'll thrive, really,
I would
going back to
end
work.
meetings in like the most awkward way. Like we had like a weekly meeting, and if I had to pump, like if the meeting was just going and carrying on and on and on, I would be like, guys, I'm gonna explode, and I'd be like touching on my chest, like I have to go. Like this meeting needs to end now.
Yeah.
Or we need to take a break. Like I would just make it really uncomfortable for people, but that's my personality, and it just, yeah. But you have to advocate for yourself, and you have to, um, yeah, look inward and say like, okay, this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do.
Yeah, and another thing I would say to a postpartum mama going back is just like give yourself grace, and like that it's if your expectation looks different from what your reality is now, that's okay. And like Emilia said, look inward, communicate your feelings. And because that was a thing, I think I held it in for a really long time. And I should have kind of like, I would say things here and there, but I wasn't like intentional and real about it until much later. And so I would just say like it's okay that you have different, that your expectations of what motherhood like and working and all that looks like versus what it actually is. It's okay that that happens. That's actually quite normal, and I didn't realize how normal it was. So just give yourself grace, mama. And it's hard. And um communicate, look inward, um and you've got this. Yeah. Do what feels right in your heart, and that's what's gonna be right. And what's right for your family, what's right for my family is not
And
right for
advocate
Amelia's
for
family, is
yourself.
not right for Savannah's
Yeah.
family, is not right. You know what I mean? Like everybody's family is different, and just do what's right for you and your little nest. Yeah. And that's what I have to say about that. Well, we're
1000%.
That was her feedback. We say that too much, which we do.
no.
And not to make it all about
But
me,
that's
You
because
but
that's like an
no,
inside joke
I'm
because we
kidding.
are always making things about ourselves. So that's why we always say that. Like,
Well,
oh,
that's why we
We
have a podcast,
do.
because we wanted an outlet to make everything about ourselves.
pretty much.
And Amelia, you love making things about yourself too,
Yeah.
so don't even. Exactly.
Everything is
So,
about me.
no, Amelia, we're so appreciative of you coming on. This was a great conversation. I hope we did okay. um, yeah, and I hope the audio and the
I feel like the audio
video was
sounds
good.
good. There were just like
No,
a
the
few times the Wi-Fi went out, but I think it's fine.
yeah, I think we're good. And
I hope so.
yeah. No, we're appreciative of you, and I love you, Amelia. You're my
Oh,
girl.
love you too. And thank you both so much for having me on finally. I'm happy to come on anytime. Um,
We will probably have you as a returning guest. We'll see what the
okay.
feedback is, No, I'm kidding. Yeah, no, we're so thankful to all of our followers, all of our listeners. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you don't already follow us at Scrunchy Moms Club Podcast on TikTok, on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and see our gorgeous faces. And that's about it. All right. That's our episode. Bye.
Bye.